Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Sky Studios podcast. I've got a great guest here today to talk about all things guitar tones. We're going to talk about guitar tones in general and then dive into genre-specific tones. But Clint, thanks so much for being with me today. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got started.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. So like you said, my name's Clint, and I'm a music director at my church. I play with Venture here in Mississippi. So I'm down in Biloxi and having a great time doing it. But I grew up playing worship music, playing CCM, and got started with that in early high school. Was when I started. I started playing drums, kind of transitioned to bass, and then guitar has kind of become my primary. And so just been diving into the gear and playing and learning all the things. Watching a lot of YouTube is how I learned. So following guys like David Hislop and Michael Pope, Jake Fowler, guys like that are like a huge inspiration to me.
Very cool. I came across your page a while back when I saw some videos on Facebook, and it was really neat. You were sharing about, I guess it was the live set, but your mix was just turned up a little bit where you could kind of hear your tones and what you were doing. And not only did I enjoy it, I was like, this is really cool, but it was also like, wow, I'd love to learn more about his tone and how he gets there. So just starting off, tell everybody a little bit about what are some just general tips for having good tone?
Yeah. First thing is to have really stellar sounding amps. That's the core of everything. It's the final signal chain, and that's what everybody hears. So making sure you have great sounding amps is really important.
And when you say amps, you mean real physical amps, or do you mean modeling?
Either one. So personally, I use models. I'm on 2 stereo Tone X pedals with some matchless amp captures on them. So just making sure that they're high quality, they're clear, they're dynamic is really, really important.
Yeah, well, I've seen you on your videos talk a lot about cooking said amps. So tell us a little bit about what do you mean by cooking those amps, and what is the benefit for that?
Sure. So by cooking, I mean just turning them up, and not necessarily volume. Volume kind of pushes the input gain of the amp, and so the amp has this natural breakup that happens when you push it so hard. So the harder you push it, it adds it makes it dirty, so it's a driven tone, but it adds a lot of harmonic content even to your clean sounds when you play really, really lightly. But as you dig in, it breaks up, it blooms, and it even helps when you're playing with a lot of delay and reverb. The more that you push the amp and you're playing, it actually ducks the reverbs and delays out of the way so that you can hear your guitar more clearly.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Tell me a little bit more about that. How did you come across that?
Man, I take a lot of inspiration from Jake Fowler, or Faber. Not sure how you pronounce that, but he is a studio musician currently in Nashville, but he was from Dallas, and I found him on Instagram. He played with a lot of big churches in the area, and so his tone is incredibly dirty. And I didn't understand how that worked, because he was still getting amazing, chimey, like really rich, clean tones. And so he has some more YouTube videos that he covered like that exact topic. And so he was explaining just what I'm saying. When you push the amps harder, it blooms, it blossoms. There's a lot more harmonic content that can be had, as opposed to an incredibly clean amp that you're adding dirt on top of, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And to take that a step further, you're just saying when you want those chimier tones, you would play softer with your right hand, and when you want the driven tones, you dig in with your right hand.
Exactly. Yeah. Playing really, really dynamic with your right hand, flip into a neck pickup or a middle position helps out a lot for cleaning up the sound.
I think one of the things I noticed, there was a guitar player in college that I really liked, and he came to my school, and I got to talk to him for a second. And I was talking, as a young kid, I'm just talking about amps and pedals and guitar tones and pickups and that kind of thing. And he just kind of looked at me. He was like, man, it's all right here. Just talking about it's all in my hands. And it sounds like that's sort of what you're hinting at, is that so much of the good tone really starts here and how dynamic you play. And so maybe a practical practical question to sort of drive your point home. So when you're playing something that you want cleaner, you're playing incredibly soft. But then when you want it to sound more driven, you're really digging in with your right hand. Is that right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, got you. And how when you say amps, like, are you on a normal basis? Are you using an amp, or are you using amp mods?
So I'm using an amp modeler. I use two Tonex ones with some stereo captures. So
Okay, very cool. So have you noticed that the dynamics are different between IRs and emulations and actual tube amps?
I'm going to be honest, I haven't played a tube amp in years now because
Yeah,
I've just been
right.
on the modeling train. Like I hopped on Kemper's several years ago, played that. Hopped on the Walrus Audio ACS1, which is like stereo amps here, and now I'm on Tonex's. But I haven't played a real amp in years, to be honest. So I don't know.
No, all good,
But
all
I
good,
have
man.
noticed Tonex is definitely the best option that I have gone through by
Okay.
far.
So what do you hear that's different than some of the previous pedals you've mentioned with the Tonex?
Just how dynamic it is,
Okay.
the clarity that you get, and like not there was some fake dynamics I would say from some of the other
Hmm.
options, like maybe Kemper and even the HX Stomp and options like that. It didn't feel as responsive to my playing, but the Tonex has like really opened up that world.
That's very cool. Yeah, I see that on so many more boards lately. That's one of the pedals that keeps popping up when folks are,
Yeah.
showing their
I
board and
mean,
stuff
they
like
sound the best. They feel the best. The feeling is probably like the biggest thing for me. Like
that.
they
Yeah.
feel the best, and they're some of the most affordable options. Like the
Yeah.
Tonex
Yeah.
ones, you can buy, I think, less than $200 used,
Yeah.
and you get stereo, amazing sounding amps for under $500, which is
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, no doubt. Are you using IRs, or are you using something that comes on the Tonex?
So I buy captures from different people and kind of pair them. So they're like the amp cab all kind of combined, but you can
Yeah.
swap out the IRs
What are some
if you want to.
some of your favorites that you've landed on that you really like?
So again, I go back to Jake Fauber. He has his own captures that he put out, and so they're called Teddy Tones. So
Okay,
make sure
cool.
to check them out. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, so for folks who are listening and they're like, Clint, this is really helpful. I do want to think about my tone more. What are some other things that you would recommend that people think through? And maybe even if we wanted to dive into the specific gear purchases, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would definitely start with amps. Your final sound is coming out of those speakers or out of your model or whatever you're using, and that has the biggest impact on your tone. So I could play a really cheap Squire, Jazzmaster or something along those lines, but if I have it going into a really cheap, really poopy sounding amp, then it's going to sound poopy. Get you high quality amps that you can plug into, and you'll have a great starting point.
And what about pedals? What are some pedals that you would recommend for folks who are really getting serious about their tone?
Yeah, definitely. Your core tone comes from overdrives and your amps. So investing in high quality overdrive sounds is essential, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that you have to spend a ton of money. There's quality brands out there like Walrus and JHS and even some Boss stuff that sound really, really great, but they're not crazy expensive. You don't have to buy the boutique overdrives that are $300-400 a piece. You just don't have
Yeah.
to.
What's your sort of overdrive of choice lately? Because I'm kind of in the market. I've got the EP booster on, just really low, and I've messed with a lot of overdrives over the years. But I really have my eye on that Greer Lightspeed. That seems to be the one that I'm curious about. But yeah, what is your go to?
Yeah, for me, so I just said you don't have to buy the bougie overdrives, but I
You
use the
did.
bougie
That's right.
overdrives.
Yeah.
So I have a King of Tone, like a real
Okay.
one that I was on the waiting list for like 6 years and waited the
Holy
whole time,
smokes.
and yeah, and ended up buying one, and it's a staple. It's never leaving.
Yeah, worth the wait.
Worth the wait, 100%.
Awesome.
I wouldn't buy it used. The secondary market, they're $800+ which is astronomical. But
Wow.
buying it directly from them and waiting, 100% worth it.
Yeah, I have a compressor sitting here in front of me. This guy in Chile made it, and it's supposed to model a Fairchild, which I think it has like 15 tubes inside of it. And
Oh wow.
I paid the deposit on it and seriously waited 2 years. And every once in a while he'd be like giving an update or something. I'm like, man, I got scammed. Like there's no way this thing's ever coming. And then one day it just showed up. I was so surprised and so shocked. And I did not get scammed. I was very thankful for that. Well, talking about moving forward in the progression of pedals, what's sort of next in line for your pedal board? And is overdrive the first step of your pedals, or does it come last?
So overdrive is kind of the second step. I always start with my dry effects. So guitar goes into a compressor. I use a Walrus Audio Deep 6, which is kind of a parallel compressor. You can blend your dry versus compressed signal. So that's really helpful. Kind of squash the thing together, add some body, some depth. That's kind of essential, I think. Maybe not like the first thing that you buy, but it's a pretty core sound for the worship genre for sure. After
like
that,
modern
would be
country and
overdrives.
worship, that seems like such a nice touch, the compression pedal. I've been using the Pulp and
Absolutely.
Peel for a while. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a Pulp and Peel for a long time. It's a great pedal.
All right, so go ahead.
Yeah, no. So after my compression is then when I go into overdrives, and people kind of have different thought processes, whether they put their amps before or after their delays and reverbs. I prefer the amps at the end of the chain. That's like more traditional. If I were to plug in real amps, that's how it would go. But a lot of guys kind of like the studio thing where you plug into your amps after that, and then you have delay and reverb following for a more like cleaner sounding delays and reverbs. But personally, I just throw it into the front end, and your reverbs and your delays actually push the amp even harder, and you kind of get these like crackly textured reverbs that sound really, really great. Adds a lot of character.
All right, keep moving, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll just go through the whole chain. Like I said, Deep 6 compression is the first one. I have a Digitech drop, which is used for like down tuning. So, just really helpful if you want to keep some of the open strings and play some of the parts that were written as they were intended, but change the key. Super helpful. A Pog for some slight octave up. Because a lot of times, like if you're getting into real big outros, instrumentals, things like that, you just want to poke out a little bit in the mix, but you don't necessarily need more drive. You just need to just pop out. So an octave kind of helps with that. And then overdrives are after that. So like I said, I use a King of Tone, which is a dual-sided overdrive. It's kind of a blues breaker style. So blues breaker, thinking like John Mayer type of sounds. Works really well in the worship context. And then I have a Brown Amplification Protein. It's another dual-sided overdrive. One side's another blues breaker, and then the other side is a ODR1 circuit. Sounds really great. And then after that, you go into some modulation. So I use a lot of chorus and a lot of vibrato. I probably overuse the vibrato. I love the wobbles though. It's so good.
Well, tell me about that. I watched one of your videos on. Actually, let's step back one. Let's go. I want to go to vibrato, and then we'll pick up on the chain. So, for people listening that are like, "Why do you have two dual overdrives?" Like, walk them through why.
Yeah. So, I like to have different gain stages. So I have, my core tone, which is like pushing past edge of breakup and already pretty driven. And then each step after that is just pushing the amp harder, getting it more and more dirty. So that first stage, I use the blue side of the protein, which is the blues breaker side. And that's just kind of like that next little push. The King of Tone yellow side is that next stage, which is like pretty crunchy, already driven, can use it for some lead stuff. Yeah, adds a lot of sustain and compression to it. And then the red side is even hotter, and it pushes it even more, probably pushing distortion, but not quite there. Just like real driven, adds a lot of harmonic content to the amps. Everything, like if you were to look at my pedal board, then you would see the volume on them are almost dimed, like they're maxed, and then the actual gain is relatively low.
Yeah.
So by pushing your volume, you're pushing the amps harder, which is going to sound more natural, and you're getting less of the flavor of the overdrive and more of the flavor of the amp. But I kind of prefer that anyway.
Yeah.
So
No, that makes sense. Very cool. All
yeah.
right, so let's go back to your vibrato. So I watched a video you posted about implementing the vibrato and what it did. What's sort of your thought behind that? It was very fascinating to me.
Yeah, vibrato. I think when you're in lower moments or more ambient, like bigger reverbs, bigger delays, quieter moments. Sometimes if you're just playing just straight, then it kind of lacks some character. So I think adding vibrato adds a lot of movement and adds like a nice touch to kind of give it some vibe. I don't
And
know
it
if that
was
makes
very
sense, but
subtle, the example you showed. Like it wasn't, at
mhm.
100% or anything like that. It was just a
No.
nice little texture in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can definitely take it too far, but like a subtle vibrato, I find works the best.
Yeah, very cool. All right, keep moving. So we got vibrato.
Yeah,
We've gone through our clean, our overdrive stages. What's next?
yeah. I mean, especially in worship, like chorus and vibrato are kind of essential. So I've got a GFI synesthesia that I can kind of have different presets on it that has both of those settings. Um, so chorus for some more 80s kind of tones. It's really popular with kind of the modern CCM thing right now.
Yeah. What about delays and
Yeah.
reverbs?
Yeah, delay. I'm using a Strymon timeline on a tape setting, and I'm not dialing in presets per song and per set. I have a couple of generic presets, and then I'm sending tempo to it. Just it. Once you have one sound dialed in really well, it works for almost everything. So that's kind of how I've been rocking like the last year and a half. I have a couple of presets. Both of them are tape settings, just on a different subdivision. So one's a dotted eighth, and then one is an eighth note delay
Hmm.
on the tape setting. So and there's some modulation on the delay as well. So as it repeats, it starts to decay and warble and that sort of thing as it goes.
Yeah. And when
Yeah.
you say sending tempo to it, do you mean like MIDI from the board?
Yes. So I have a MIDI controller. It's the RJM Mastermind. And so all of these different pedals can be in loops that allows me to control it from one spot. And then my delays, reverbs, modulation, all that's controlled over MIDI. So I'm sending clock to the timeline just for tempo per song, but the actual sounds and the presets stay the
Yeah.
same
So
pretty
you're not
much
having to
throughout the
tap
whole
it
set.
in the middle of a song or something like that. Yeah.
No.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, been there,
All right.
done that, and we play with a
Yeah.
click. So,
Yeah. What about
yeah.
reverb?
Yeah, reverb, I'm using a Strymon Big Sky.
Yeah.
And again, I keep it really simple. I have one page with three presets. I have a small, medium, and large. And I've lived on those three for the last year and a half or so. And I haven't really, I mean, you tweak them every now and then, but I haven't deviated from needing anything else than those three.
Yeah. Well, very cool, Clint. I feel like you've walked us through a tone masterclass so far. This is great, man. Well, what are some folks listening that want to continue to grow, myself included, on the actual practice side, the rehearsal side? What are some things that we can be doing at home to improve our chops?
Yeah, I would say note selection. And by what I mean is like the same note on different strings have different tonalities to them. So, your G note on the 12th fret of your actual G string is going to sound different than your third fret on the E string. It's the same octave, same note, but your E string is going to sound a lot sharper. Your G string is going to sound warmer, more round. So choosing the appropriate string for the appropriate note is really big in my opinion.
And do you think through that, I know in the studio when we're working on a song, a lot of times we'll sort of dodge the vocal. And so you could play this part in position 3, but that's kind of where the vocals sit. And so you might sort of think strategically about moving up or down, or do you think about it in a different way?
No, I definitely think about it that way. In worship, the lyrics and the vocals are king. So you definitely want to stay out of the way. Either stay out of the way or enhance it with harmonies or adding the same melody to it, those sort of things.
Very cool. What other things could we be practicing at home and working on, Clint?
Man, I think the most important for any genre, anything that you're playing, make sure you have a guitar that plays in tune and stays in tune. You can have the most expensive guitar ever, but if it doesn't stay in tune, doesn't play in tune, then you're going to sound really bad.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
One of my
So,
biggest purchase regrets over the years, and I still regret it, was this really old Gretsch, which are not really known for their quality back in the day. But
mm,
man, it was a cool guitar, but it just would not stay in tune, and I could not buy it. And I kick myself now because I'm like, I wish I would have just bought it and redid the tuning
right.
keys and everything.
Yeah.
But no doubt, that's a great note. Well, Clint, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing with us. If people want to see some more of your videos and learn more about you, where can they find that out?
Sure. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. That's at CJBelt14. And then I just recently started a YouTube channel that I have a whole pedal board rundown of everything that I just talked about. So you can go follow, subscribe to me on YouTube. And that's just at Clint Belt, just my name. So,
Awesome. Clint, thanks so much for your time today.
of course, Casey, thank you for having me.